year, if not two. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Okay. Megan, quick question. My internet cut out, but it looks like we're still recording, right? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Lindsay, the floor is yours.
Hello, how are you all?
We're good. You?
I'm well, thank you. My name is Lindsay Tyrell, and I am a teacher at Stefanski Elementary or Early Childhood GSRP, and I just want to read something quickly, hopefully in 5 minutes, that I had written down earlier this week. And it said, Jim Henson was right when he said it isn't easy being green, nor is it to be a parent or to be in education or both at the same time at a time like this. When COVID demolished the rest of our school year on March 13th, 2020, I think we all finally realized that nature is smarter than we think. However, like any other natural disaster, we rose from the rubble, dusted ourselves off, and began rebuilding. We didn't need the school building to be able to connect with our school family, just like you didn't need a place of worship to serve your God when they closed their doors. We all found a way. It might have not been blue ribbon worthy, but we did put our own sparkle on it. And you know what? We did it because of you. And for the most part, it worked because we worked together as a team. A solid foundation and a true testament of what a village can really do to raise children. We worked our butts off to accommodate every child as if they were still in the classroom. Our locations may have changed, but not our positions. Food service worked day in and day out to keep bellies full and to sustain grocery budgets, even for the weekends. Administrators offered technology to every home that was in need. Principals and secretaries answered countless emails to keep us informed and to keep staff spirits alive. Personal cell phone numbers were given out by social workers and psychologists alike. Materials were made available for free. By PT, OT, speech, and so on. Some of us even drove to your homes just so we could be near you. We missed you. Your child's work and personal items were not discarded, but rather treated like the little treasures they were and returned to you. This took a lot of energy, time, and paperwork. That partnered with having zero access to our resources because we weren't allowed in our buildings, let alone our classrooms. I'll let you imagine what that looked like for a minute. Keep in mind, this was for all ages and stages of kiddos, pre-K through high school. And we did it for you, for us, and most importantly, your children. Have you forgotten this? I still remember you rallying behind us, applauding our efforts, showing your gratitude and appreciation for what we had done without a moment's notice. You showed us kindness like never before. And now where are we? Stuck. That's where, between a rock and a hard place, all of us, divided on our own beliefs and opinion, all while losing our faith in one another. We got to get that back, and we have to be quick because time is not on our side. Emotions are high, and if you're like me, sleep is running low, which is not the ideal combination. Alongside with ultimatums, it doesn't look good. It can downright get ugly, literally. As I muster through my day and try to fill it with things I normally would do in the summer, I'm quickly reminded at night, as I lay on my tear-soaked pillow, how hard it has been and how now I have more questions than answers than ever before. We're not so different now, are we? We don't know what we don't know, and it might not even be up for debate in the upcoming weeks. So please, cut us some slack. Believe it or not, this is way bigger than calling a snow day. You don't know what you don't know. Can't you see it in their faces? Hear it in their voices? They're hurting too. They're angry too. And every day, fists clenched, they are willing to fight to do their best. Of course they want what you want, what I want, what we all want. They hear you, but can you just listen to them too? It's hard to hear with all the noise, but they know what's best for kiddos, and that's to be in school. You would be wrong to think otherwise. My goodness, we take trainings on how to protect your children, And if an active shooter comes on the school grounds, we know we might have to use our bodies to shield them. We might even end up taking a bullet for them. And personally, I wouldn't change that because I didn't have a choice and I didn't know about the immediate risk that day. If I had known, we wouldn't go in. Lives saved. But there's no special training for this virus or meds to make it go away. This is a different risk, and I personally cannot imagine a child or one of their family members from my classroom succumbing to this virus when it could have been avoided. Nor will I envision what would happen to my family and what my husband would do as a widower, having to watch our son grow up without his mother. A lifetime of trauma sounds much more tragic than 10 weeks of virtual schooling. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's bring in Rob Nichols. Hi, Rob.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay. So a couple things. I won't keep you long because I know this is running late. But your last caller was talking about keeping it safe. The teachers shouldn't get a buy. Go talk to the workers at Kroger's, at Meijer's, at Walmart, who were working through the absolute worst time of this. You know, just it might not be safe to go back to school, but it might not be safe in 2 years, like your other caller was saying. So at one point in time, you just got to do the best you can and move forward. Because what are you going to do if there is no vaccine this year or early next year? Just keep kicking it down the road 5 weeks at a time? And for the superintendent to say he's not trying to follow, but then you keep hearing all of the other school districts are doing this and the other school districts are doing that. Well, then you're following. So do what your people want and not what everybody else is doing. And that's pretty much all I have to say. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Rob. Okay, let's bring in Shauna. Hey, Shauna.
Hello.
Hey, Shauna.
Hi, I have a couple questions. I listened to the town hall on Thursday, and I have two issues. One, I don't have a clear understanding of what an actual virtual day is going to look like for the remote learning. Like most everybody on here, again, 2-person working home, we cannot, and according to the town hall, you're going to take attendance. It's impossible for us to do that on 5 days a week. It's just not a reality that can be met. So I have a concern about the absence issues and the non-flexibility of the remote learning. The other concern I have now is also, you're saying, well, childcare is available, people got approved today. But when the childcare notices go out, because we do use childcare, they said that we could not get childcare unless we needed it 5 days a week. We don't need it 5 days a week. We only needed it 2 days a week. So we did not sign up. And I have not checked to see, but I'm going to guess it filled up pretty fast. So now we have no childcare and we have no answers as to how we're supposed to put our kids in 5 days a week when we're not. It's just not possible. So we need to have something that is semi-concrete to know what the days are going to look like, if there's going to be any flexibility, because if not, then we have to consider homeschool. And we as parents, and I know everybody's trying to figure this out, but as the school days approach, I don't want to be the last minute, oh, I'm yanking my kid out, and my kid's trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? You know, do I get to go to school or don't I? So I need to know, or we need to have something that's a little more concrete as to, are you going to be flexible for parents who work? If not, then we need to be able to make that decision, since it's obvious, or mostly obvious, that we will not have an in-person option as of right now. So I just had those couple questions, or how that can be addressed.
We're going to loop back to that. We're going to talk about, we've taken note, your question is, we need something more concrete about what it looks like a day in the life of virtual learning, and then flexibility, right? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Shauna.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris Wall. Hi, Chris. Hi, Chris, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Gotcha. All right, Chris.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay, so kind of to echo the previous speaker, I guess we need a clearer picture of the remote. And I guess my question would be exactly, obviously we selected in person, but we're gonna need to do the remote. And I'm not talking the virtual, I'm talking the remote. Will the teachers actually be inside the school in their own classroom doing the remote classes? I guess that's my first question. Or are they also going to, as in the spring, obviously from their homes or their basements or their offices, within their homes? So I guess that's my first question. And the reason why I asked that is we've had some feedback from some teachers that we know in other districts that they are allowed to go into, well, they believe they're going to be allowed to go into their actual classrooms. It will be remotely. Their students will be remotely, but they're going to be able to go into their classrooms and actually teach their classes.
I think Superintendent Lindberg or Lisa are going to address this when we get back here. We finish with comment, Chris. We're gonna loop back to that one. So, what does a day in the life of?
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay.
Yep, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Okay. Hi, Heather.
Hello, this is actually Patrick. My wife was signed in at first. I was at my son's soccer practice at the beginning of the meeting and joined in late. So,
Hi, Patrick.
And I will do my best to be brief as well. Couple of things. I appreciate the fact that the superintendent proposed an alternative to the 10 weeks that he initially proposed, because I really felt personally that that was pretty unacceptable. I feel like 10 weeks, 5 weeks, in the end, when you're going to, what defines that goalpost and says, okay, well, at 10 weeks we can go back to school. I mean, at November 6th, all the talk is, well, we think cases are rising and they're going to continue to rise, and globally they think there's going to be this second wave. Well, if the second wave hits, it's going to hit in November and December and January, and how are we even going to say that November 6th is the right time to go? In my opinion, it's actually best to start as soon as possible and get into the school year and see how this works, because as things progress, you have to be able to, as was mentioned in the last two callers before me, be flexible. We have to learn how this works. We can't just say, oh, well, the numbers are low enough now, we can send them back, and then not, we haven't had any experience with it. Right now is the time to do that. This is the opportunity to do that. That's the first thing I have to say. The second is, as a business owner, when COVID began, I had to sit down with my partners and we had to establish what we called tripwires for how we managed our business through this pandemic. Now, unfortunately, decisions that were made within our government and locking down businesses ended up causing the end of my business. But that's neither here nor there. We never really even got to follow through with those tripwires that we developed. But I don't hear any tripwires that say, okay, at 5 weeks, if numbers are X, Y, Z based on this information, well, then we can go back. Or at 10 weeks, if numbers are X, Y, Z, then we can go back. Those things need to be established and they need to be made public so that parents can hold the board and the superintendent accountable to their work, because I think that is really important. We could sit here and be accepting of the decision that's made, But if 5 weeks down the road, the goalpost gets moved, that's really kind of unfair to us again. You know, you're already decided, you've already given us the option of saying we want our kids to go back to school, but we feel safe, we trust you, and we trust ourselves. But you're saying, well, no, you know what, you guys didn't make the right decision, so we're going to make it for you. So I understand and respect that you're going to do that, and we have to deal with that, or you're prepared to do that. I'm not saying you have already, but you know, that is a concern that I have is, you know, you're telling us 5 weeks. Okay, well, at 5 weeks, we're going to reassess. Well, what does reassess mean? There really isn't anything defining that at this point. And I appreciate that you're talking about it, but there has to be a public declaration of what that means. Lastly, as the superintendent gave his presentation there, he talked about, I think it was 469 teachers live outside the district and have their own children, 552. And you listed off all the options for how they can choose to avoid having to come back to work. I don't know how else to put it, so I apologize if I'm offending anybody. I want to make very clear, I have a great respect for teachers. I have a great appreciation for what they did accomplish in the spring, although I will say it had its pitfalls and its failings. And we had 3 months to get it better, but it didn't seem to really change. And here we are, we're making a decision with 3 weeks to go saying, well, we'll do it better, but really, are we going to do it better? So the great concern I have here is you're saying we really, you know, we know that a massive percentage of our teachers are not going to want to come back, and they have the option to take these things. Well, they're going to have the option to take those things at 5 weeks. They're going to have the option to take those things at 10 weeks. It's all personal choices. At some point, as was mentioned before, you kind of have to rip the Band-Aid off, and you have to force people to make decisions. Everyone in this world who's had to go back to work has had to make that choice. And the government has put into place options that give them the ability to become comfortable with the new normal. But after that 12 weeks, you've got to make a decision. Either you are no longer going to work and somebody has to replace you, or you are going to move back in, you're going to find a way to make it work. And the further we kick the football down the road, it doesn't really change that teachers are still going to have fear about making this decision, and they're going to still have that option to take 12 weeks off. And that's only going to kick the football down the field even further for us parents. Now, I as I said, I have a great respect for teachers, but we have to give the balance of power. We have to keep the balance of power equal here. And, you know, if we give the teachers all of the decision-making power by saying we are not coming back to work, then we really put the parents at a real disadvantage. So, you know, I just want to say that, because if the reasoning behind that is you're concerned that teachers are not going to be there, well, then start the clock. Because at some point, people do have to start coming to the reality, as I think it was Teresa or Tracy, I can't remember, three callers ago said, at some point, you have to accept that this is what life is going to be for a while, and we have to learn how to live it. And the government has told us, and scientists have told us exactly how we can make it work. And I think the school system has done a pretty good job, based on what they've described, of being able to accomplish that. Now, my son is sitting here and he hears this meeting going on, and he keeps coming back to me and he keeps saying, I won't do it. I won't do homeschooling. I don't want to do it. I want to go to class, Dad. This isn't fair. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. It's not your job to solve that problem for me. But the one thing that is indelible in my brain from what happened between March and June, and these things are not your fault, but they are the results of his need to be associated with something, to have a day-to-day routine, is my son has never had these things before, but he had massive panic attacks and night terrors and all kinds of emotional issues that he never experienced in the time when he's in school. And I will never forget those things. And the last thing I want is for him to be forced into a situation where those things come back into his life. As soon as school was over and the stress of that was over, his life changed and he got better. But the stress of trying to function in that environment really caused a lot of emotional issues. And I'm certain I'm not the only parent that had that. So that's all I have to say, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Okay, Emily. Or Brenda, I'm sorry, Brenda.
Yes. I just wanted to say to, if any of the Waterford teachers are still on and listening, that, you know, you are appreciated. And if one thing that this pandemic has proven is how much teachers are needed. We need you guys. You're valuable. I mean, we're virtual learning and all of that just is a pale substitute for what you guys provide. So I just want to say that, because that hurt my heart to hear the teacher feel like you weren't appreciated. And I heard that all throughout the Waterford community, that, you know, us parents, we're not equipped to teach these kids, and that face-to-face instruction is so important. So with that said, I feel it's important that the teachers are comfortable. If that 5 weeks is to figure out ways to make it more comfortable for them, to make things safer, I'm all for it. I know, you know, COVID's here to stay, so that we're probably never gonna have it go away with 0 cases. But, you know, if we can work to make the teachers feel more comfortable, I'm all for it. Now, my son is in the music program, and I heard someone else mention that, and it sounded like you guys were open to making something with that work. And I really hope that is the case, because, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's probably not much, but on the priority list, but it is very, very important to a lot of kids. And if they could at least have some kind of connection with that, either in being able to, you know, get together and practice in small groups, because the virtual did not work very well. It's not from the lack of trying of the teachers, trust me, it just doesn't work when you're trying to do an ensemble. So hopefully something can be worked out. But thank you and good luck. Thank you to the board as well. Thanks for your time.
Brenda. Thank you. Okay. Emily. Hi, Emily. Hi, Emily, are you there?
Hi. Oh, sorry.
How are you?
Hi. I'm good. I just, as a student in the Waterford School District, I feel that, like, I want to have as much not one-on-one, but, like, in-person class as possible, because, like, I am a senior, and, like, as a senior, like, speaking for the senior class, basically, we all want to have, like, as much contact as possible, which I don't know if it's possible, but that's just, like, some concern that we have, like, with my friend group, or, like, with a whole bunch of our senior class. That's it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Emily. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's bring in Katie S. Hey, Katie.
Hi, can you hear me?
We got you.
All right, so I guess I just wanted to start out and say that you probably would have saved us all much more time if you started with the presentation and then had us ask questions afterwards. I'm not sure how that was worked out. But basically, this is a lose-lose situation. We are being forced to forsake our safety for our education, or to forsake our education for our safety. What you as a school board have failed to provide is a coherent, clear plan. If you make the decision to go online, how are you going to deal with parents who can't be home with their children? Parents who can't afford daycare, parents who can't supervise their children as they're on their computers. We're watching you and we can see that you're bored. We can see you looking down, looking around as adults, probably texting on your phones too. So how are we supposed to maintain that with children? If you decide that you are going to make the decision to go in person, how will you deal with families that can't afford to send in their at-risk children, or those families that are at risk themselves? What about the families that need devices that you said that you don't have? No matter the decision you make, it will be met with tragic results. We need to move away from this decision that you've put off until the last second, and we need to start worrying about how you're going to handle the outcome of whatever you choose. As a community that was forced to choose whether they wanted to send their children back to school or have them proceed online, we deserve to know why you took that decision away from us. Your presentation was a bit of a hoax. We all knew this was the reality of your presentation when you gave us the choice to begin with. So why did you take that choice away? In a house of 4 family members, one being a teacher, my father came down with COVID after he was forced to return to work. It was a horrific and scary experience, but the decision was still made for my younger sister to attend in-person schooling when this all started. So why was this decision that we were forced to make, having gone through COVID ourselves, so abruptly taken away from us? We deserve to know because you have removed the situation that would satisfy the most parents, and as elected officials, you have not even had the decency to share why. In addition to this, I implore you to consider hybrid accommodations and not simply the half days, but perhaps Monday, Wednesday attendance full days and Tuesday, Thursday attendance rotating. Again, no matter the decision that you make, we lose. We need to focus less on, I think we should or shouldn't go back because, and more on all of the things that you've thus far failed to prepare for. The scheduling of an impromptu emergency meeting later in the semester should be the least of your concerns. We just approved a bond for schools facilities, and I just pray that the next bond we see will be to increase teacher salary. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Erica. Hi, Erica.
Hello. That was interesting. I just want to say that I'm sorry that you guys are here this late, and I wanted to voice my opinion because I am in the medical field. I am a mother with 2 beautiful girls. One is 15 and one is 7, Kettering and Grayson, but all amazing teachers. I think that people are getting really upset about this, about education, and it is important, but what's more important is our health and our safety. And I feel like it would be a huge mistake to go in person. You're going to have COVID testing every day, all day long. Kids don't inform their teachers nor their parents that their throat is hurting or their head might hurt. And temperature taking is great and all, but you could carry the virus and not have any symptoms. I thought I would be a good mom and let my daughter play around outside, you know, and come to find out one of her girlfriends may have COVID. It's not a good, safe environment to be having our children out there. And I'm kind of disappointed that some of these parents are angry at you guys, at the teachers. It's our kids' safety of health, not their education. I mean, their education is very important, but what good is their education if they're not here? I'm a mother who is also sick. I have breast cancer. I have granulomatous mastitis, a rare blood disorder. And if they bring that virus home to me and I go and I don't make it, then we've done all this in-person school stuff for nothing. And I think that doing the 4 weeks is perfect. I think this is not permanent. People are getting really mad about it, but this isn't a permanent situation. This is temporary. And we all pray to God that this will all go away and we can all live our normal lives again. But what if we can't?
Thank you so much for that, Erica.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Ross Grossman. Hi, Ross.
Well, hello. So my name is Ross Grossman. I'm a school psychologist in Waterford since 2003. I worked at the elementary, middle, high school, and post-secondary levels. So I've been around. So I wanted to say this was in my email today, and it was perfect timing for this meeting. And it's from the Washington Post. This is not fake news. This is bad news. So this is from the Post. A report from leading pediatric health groups found that more than 97,000 U.S. children tested positive for COVID in the last 2 weeks of July, and that 97,000 is within a quarter of the total number of children diagnosed nationwide since March. So we are picking up speed. As of July 30th, there were more than 335,000 cases reported in children since this pandemic started, according to data from the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association. Despite some political figures saying that children aren't affected, new research says the virus affects children in drastically different ways depending on age. With infants and preschoolers, it can inflame the blood vessels, and it may be especially contagious in toddlers who had more COVID up their noses, even though they only had mild or moderate symptoms. And inflamed blood vessels, I had to look up, means that weakens the artery walls and can lead to brain aneurysms. In older children, not adolescents, stops their hearts, and adolescence is the turning point in how the virus is affected and spread. Cases have spiked among 15 to 25-year-olds, which is middle, high school, and the post-secondary, suggesting they may be driving the spread of the virus. So I have many concerns, but my first three are for the safety of the students. Black and Hispanic children, per the Washington Post, are 8 times more likely than their white peers to be hospitalized with COVID-19. When it's bad, it gets very bad. In Waterford, 32% of our students are minority students, and the biggest chunk of those are Hispanic. In fact, of all of our students, 13% of them are Hispanic. 10% of them are African American. My secondary concern is for the safety of the adults at their homes. What comes home with their children? For all the precautions that every responsible parent is taking, limiting contacts, staying home more often, wearing masks, washing hands, when your students come back home, they will have been with other kids whose families don't take masks seriously or other precautions. And we've heard people talking about their right not to wear a mask. None of us want to hear that your children have lost a family member. My third and really my last concern is for the teachers. We want to work. It would be so much easier to do our jobs at school. We still want to do our jobs. Now, I'm not minimizing that remote learning is a challenge for families at home to have online schooling. And the problem is that there's not a great answer either way. Any school staff who supports online schooling is worried about losing their students to COVID and our students losing their family members and, okay, losing teachers. And I'm old enough to say I'm getting up to those risk years. We don't want Waterford schools to be in the news like the Atlanta, Georgia High School, where 6 students and 3 staff tested positive for COVID after the first week of school. And maybe you saw that video where kids were passing. My cousin, the ER doctor, tells me that the second wave has started and scientists expect a surge in the winter months. When Michigan hits phase 3, the choice isn't the boards anymore. That's just some of the things in my mind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ross. Okay, let's bring in Meredith. Hi, Meredith. Meredith, are you with us?
I think my only comment is the Washington Post is complete trash. It's garbage. And, the world's richest man. They recently posted some article about how great China was. It's garbage. And that's our only comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue. Hi, Sue.
Hi, can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, I have the same concern that the one that was at the soccer place with his Patrick or whatever his name was. How can you really determine that at 5 weeks that we are only going to do virtual learning for 10? Because if we have a bigger surge than what we're having right now, at 10 weeks, you guys are going to tell us again that we're not going to go for another semester. So I guess I'm a little confused because he is right. You guys have nothing to guarantee that in November we are going to go back to school. It's all going to be based on what you guys feel is safe. But you have nothing up there showing us what it has to be for us to be able to go back. I guess is, you know, like, is there something that you guys are going to have written out saying, at the 10 weeks, we are going back no matter what, even if the COVID cases are up, or at 10 weeks, if the COVID cases are up, then we're not going back. We're going to do another 10 weeks. Is there going to be something written explaining this to the parents? You know, I mean, I guess I don't understand because there's nothing, we have nothing to follow. You know, I guess we're just confused because we don't know. You could revisit it in 5 weeks. If the numbers never went up in that 5 weeks, it meant that we could really have started school on time. Okay. But now all of a sudden, 5 weeks, it looks good. You're making sure that you can reopen in November, but then 2 weeks after you make that decision, the numbers start skyrocketing. So then you guys have to backpedal, and now we're going to go another 10 weeks online. Do you understand where we're coming from on that at all? Or, I mean, I guess because it's really not been discussed, and he brought it up, and I was wondering the same question myself because we were a little confused about that. Are we going to have something written in stone saying that no matter what, after 10 weeks, we are going back to school? Is that how they're going to roll it?
I think that's part of the challenge, Sue. So thank you so much for that. Christina. Hi, Christina.
Hi, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, my first thought is at this point in our discussions, I think that it would be beneficial if we would leave the medical advice in the hands of the infectious disease experts. And we should also leave statistics and newspaper articles behind because the news is different depending on who you trust. Additionally, I'd like to say that I will echo a lot of what Patrick said as well as Sue just now. I do want to interject that one of the other teachers in the beginning when I was able to hop on said, you know, she felt like the parents were blaming the teachers and the administration. And I just have to say that, you know, I love the Waterford School District teachers. I'm not minimizing their concerns any more than they should minimize mine. All of our concerns are very real. We all need to individually assess our own risk and make our best decisions based on our own circumstances. And again, you know, you say that, you know, the remote learning will only be until November, but what happens differently in November, other than the fact that the flu will also be hitting us pretty hard. So, you know, we'll have flu and COVID, which, you know, are pretty similar symptoms. And Scott said, you know, it's not going to go away. So how long do we continue on this path? You know, just like what Patrick said, you know, there has to be a point, just like I had the point where I had to decide if I was going to go back to work or not. You know, I was going to follow the rules that my employer set forward, and I basically have to follow those rules if I want to continue to work. Otherwise, they're going to tell me, you know, good luck, find a new job. The sadder part of all of this is that, you know, some of these children, while they might not have special needs, they have different learning styles. And I know it's very difficult for me as an adult to sit in front of a computer all day for, you know, for however many hours, 8, 10 hours. I know that we don't expect our kids to do that much, but I think that, you know, what's really happened here is much of the administration as well as our government officials have really minimized the profession of teachers, thinking that, you know, the parents could do this. You know, it's very difficult as a working parent, and we need to continue to work to provide for our children. So one of the things, our children are suffering, their education, their social development, their depression, with these children's mental, issues that they're all, dealing with. They're having, their challenges as well. At least in the spring, it was easy for them to go outside and play with their friends, when their school was done. It's a little bit different in winter when everybody's kind of hibernating and nobody's going outside. And the last thing I want to just, bring up is, how will our children be graded? How will we ensure that they aren't being left behind just sitting looking at a computer all day when remote learning is supposed to be required of them? I mean, everybody has a different learning style. And, I know my child had a very difficult time, and I know that the administration and the teachers did the best they could. And I really applaud them for that. But again, we're all kind of asking these same questions. And I think that it's really critical that the administration be able to answer some of those during the next school board meeting. And that's all.
Thank you so much, Christina. Hi, Melissa.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay. Sorry, kind of caught me off guard. Yeah, I have some of the similar things about being a single working mom. I do have a freshman and a 5th grader at Mott and Beaumont. And some of my concerns obviously are that I will be working while the kids are at home, which I've heard a lot, so I'm sure you already know that's what the main concern is. But some of the things that I did not hear about were issues like my son is in the STEM program. How is that going to be handled? Because obviously that's a lab where they're doing hands-on stuff. So if they're doing that remotely, how is that going to be addressed? He was in technology last year, and that was a joke because obviously you can't do all the hands-on stuff because we don't have the right equipment. So if they're in the STEM program and they're supposed to be doing hands-on learning, how are they going to be able to do that through remote learning? And again, he's also in band. That was kind of hard too. Like half the time he didn't even take out his instrument because he's like, whatever, they can't hear me, they can't see me. And he really hasn't even picked up his instrument. And I don't even know how long, because I think he lost, it made him lose interest. And he was really, really excited about it. So band and STEM are my 2 main concerns. We had some issues with Google Classroom, which I'm sure you've heard all of them, with like our laptops glitching. We do have electronics, fortunately, that they can use, so that's not an issue. Sorry, that's my dog playing with a toy. Where else was I? But I think that's it. And like what the last couple people have talked about, like if we're not starting right away, what is the number like for us to come back? Is it, if the numbers don't increase, or if they only have a 2% increase, or like what is that number going to be for us to return to school? Is it, if we had a solid goal, like, oh, the numbers are below, there's no more than 200 cases this week or whatever. I don't, just throwing a number out there. Like, I think the board needs to look at that. Like, start with remote learning. It's going to be very, very hard for a lot of people, including myself, because I do work a lot of days, 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. So I'm not going to be home at all when the kids are home. And then even doing nighttime teaching with them or helping them, there's, 2 or 3 nights a week, I won't even be home then. So, because I do some 12-hour days. So that's going to be a little bit tricky. And then just in making sure, like, accommodations with the 504 plans, both my kids have those, and how that's going to be handled. So I think those are my main things. Basically, how is the STEM program going to work along with band, and what the what the plan is for, because it does sound like we are definitely probably starting remote as far as listening to what's been going on tonight. But what are the numbers? Because, you know, I don't really foresee them going down too much, especially going into the flu season. And so then we're going to be looking at maybe not even going back this year, which then we probably would have chose virtual, even though my son did Eduentity over the summer and hated it. So, but
Thank
as
you
far
so
as
much,
like,
Melissa.
yeah, as far as kids listening to like mask wearing and stuff, I work with kids, and I'm telling you what, they are very diligent and remind the adults what the rules are. So I don't think it's going to be an issue with the kids wearing masks or not, or washing their hands or staying distant, because kids are little sponges and they will learn what those are. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so a lot of my questions have already been asked, so I'm not going to go over anything else. But one thing, I mean, they did give an email address to send the message, like if you're needing a device. My question related to that is, you know, she said that, excuse me, there's not enough devices for every student, and obviously we know that. But what do you base your decision on as far as who needs one and who doesn't? And then my other question is, are we going to be receiving any kind of material or learning plans from the WVA? Because, I mean, if classes start in 3 weeks, I mean, we haven't received any kind of emails or anything from them. So I'm just wondering if they're going to be sending something, and is there like contact numbers or emails that we can get a hold of them if we want to try and get information from them instead of waiting to hear something from them. And I think that's it. Just basically, how are you going to base your decision on who's in need of a device over somebody else, and then when can we expect to receive any information from the online academy?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lisa. We're going to get you those answers.
Okay, thank you.
M's phone. Hey, M's phone. Hi, Em, are you there? Or maybe it's EMS phone.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I guess my only concern is I'm a single mom, and that's what I heard everybody else, you know, concerns were. So I guess my biggest thing is if we do the online and everything, with me working as many hours as I do from 8 to sometimes 7 o'clock at night, and there's nobody to reinforce my kids working and doing the schoolwork for, you know, online, what would be the penalties if they weren't able to? Would I have to hire a tutor, or what exactly is going to happen? It's just I am not smart when it comes to teaching my kids. So if the teachers, like when we did for spring, at the end of spring, my son and my daughter really struggled. So with them struggling, and the teachers were amazing. My son's teacher was getting a hold of me and contacting him, but he was struggling because our computer isn't up to par and he couldn't get on and all that stuff. So I guess the biggest thing is what's going to happen if the parents that can't enforce school at home, what's the penalty? Are the kids going to be held back? What, just pretty much that. What's going to happen to the parents that can't enforce school at home? So, other than that, I mean, there's so many questions, and so many parents that are in the same boat as you know, my family. So, just as long as there's more information and more guidelines on everything, I guess is just my concern. My kids my kids need that one-on-one teacher, and I understand we chose, you know, face-to-face. So what with the way that they were struggling with the online and not being able to get their questions asked, if, you know, if the class ended or if my kids couldn't get online or whatever the case may be, just more answers to be, you know, I guess just more answers to the parents that can't do the online and enforce it because they're working, or by the time I get home from work, it's dinner time and then bedtime. So I don't know. I don't understand how it's gonna work with some of these kids that with the parents that can't educate their children or don't have the means of educating their children. So other than that, I mean, I think that the school's amazing. I love my kids' schools, the teachers and everything. So other than that, I just that's my biggest concern is what's the penalty if they can't, you know, if they can't get the assignments done or can't get a hold of their teachers, or if I'm not home and can't communicate with the teachers until I get off work. Just those kinds of questions.
Sure. I think as soon as we give the administration some direction this evening, they're going to set off and plan and start to get that information tomorrow morning. So
Okay.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, you guys. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Heather Knuckles, welcome. Heather, have you stuck in with us? Heather, are you there? Okay, we're gonna come back to you, Heather. Zoe. Hi, Zoe.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Cool. So I am a student and I have a younger brother and a younger sister. The younger brother going into 6th grade this year, or this upcoming year, and sister going into 10th. And I just kind of wanted to give a perspective of kind of a student going on and what happened in like the spring and March until now, pretty much. And to start off, for all of the parents out there, especially with children in middle schools and high schools, even like with your 11-year-olds, please check on their mental health weekly, because it is so important. And I don't think a lot of kids or high schoolers my age kind of portray that, but it really does take a toll on them, even if they're just in their room. And that's a huge thing that's been kind of a deal in my household the past couple months that we've been off school, and it's developed a lot of family issues that really are not fun. And I don't think that going back virtually will help really anybody, even if it's like needed or not. But I did have one point of, if your students do not have AP or honors classes, I do highly recommend that you put them in Ingenuity, because I did that for summer school and it was so easy. It might be boring, but it is very, very easy, and it is a very well set up, structured platform that your kids can actually learn through. And I learned through it instead of Google Classroom, where I did not learn anything, and I cannot learn anything. Specifically, me and my sister also applied to go back to school, because we have honors and AP classes that we can't learn at home. And that's very difficult, especially with an AP chemistry class, that you can't do that at home. And I think one of my other questions is, again, with the music program, why are all of these sports programs allowed to continue, but the marching band is not? That's been something that's been set up with the board of, or like, that hasn't been discussed pretty much yet, I don't think, or at least I haven't been told of, that we are not allowed to go back yet. And that's very stressful for me, being that it's my senior year and I'm already stressing about not being able to have a senior year. I would like something that would kind of combat that. And another thing with having the social life and everything about, like, oh, kids won't wear their masks and everything, I believe, or actually I can tell you, I could honestly point out to you the kids at Mott High School that would not wear a mask, and majority of them, like 99.9%, would very much willingly wear a mask. And then the other percent that wouldn't, they can go home. And I feel like saying that the kids aren't going to be responsible enough, that's very much underestimating them. And yeah, I 100% believe that it is beneficial for everybody, as long as it is safely organized, to go back into school. But that's pretty much my 2 cents.
Thank you so much for sharing, Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
Cassie Hall. Hey, Cassie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
All right, this is Brandon, Cassie's husband.
Brandon.
Joined in here. So I just want to start with when I joined the meeting, superintendent was giving his plan, and I did hear all the bullet points and and how he wanted to go about things. He started off with he didn't want to make this political, and I don't want to make it political either. I do favor one side more than the other, just like any average person. But you cannot say you're going to make it non-political and lead off with your plan that we are under Whitmer's startup plan. And you can look at Whitmer's startup plan, and you can take suggestions from that and pull from this things that you like and dislike. But you can't take that as gold. You cannot say that whoever classifies us in stage 3 or stage 4, who determines that? We've never been through this before, but we have been through something, another pandemic with the H1N1, and I've been reading on the CDC's website what school was like. It was just a Google search. What school was like during the H1N1 outbreak, and they list on their pros and cons what they did right and wrong on the CDC website as far as when it came to school. And the biggest thing that I'm reading on here is straight from Janet Napolato. I don't know if I'm saying that right. She's Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. She did state that the new advice is being issued because once you close a school, as we saw last spring, that creates a very significant ripple effect on parents and businesses. And the ripple effect that is going to come based on the decisions that the school board makes. And I think that the voice of the school board should not be the voice of the entire community. I think the community, if you guys can take a Zoom meeting and take this and adapt to a Zoom meeting, we should be able to adapt to a community vote based on, you know, people who have kids in the school system. I don't think that, you know, 13 board members should have the power to make this kind of decision. If it's a decision as significant as it is, it needs to come down to the greater majority of people. I was deemed an essential worker. I do heating and cooling. I've been working through this pandemic the entire time. Most people called in during the pandemic with no heat. If I said that, no, I'm sorry, there isn't a decision based on what I should or shouldn't do right now, that person's, you know, out of heat. And there's going to be bigger effects because I did not go service that. I took precautions on what I should and shouldn't do. I wore a mask. I, you know, wore gloves, this and that and the other, sprayed my vehicle down. I took the precautions I needed to do my job. I did not take and turn it off. If I turned it off, other people would suffer. Same goes for the teachers in this circumstance. The teachers decided on which road they were going to follow when they made their choice in life to become a teacher. Nobody saw this pandemic coming. It's an act of God. You can't predict anything about that. But what needs to happen is life will go on. We need to adapt. We need to do everything we can in our power to adjust. You know, I had a few talking points on here. I was right on board with the lady KDS that called in. You know, she made the same statement that the teachers don't get a pass on this. Well, you know, there's many professions out there that don't get a pass on this, and we take them for granted each and every day. You know, we wouldn't be able to have this Zoom meeting right now if somebody didn't go to work and make this happen. Let me look over my notes here. You know, another thing, back to the bullet points of the superintendent, he mentioned that we didn't want to be followers. We wanted to lead by example and make Waterford a statement and to make the right choices. I would advise you to make the right choice and let there be choice. You should have two different roads you can go down as a parent. You should be able to send your kid to school if you would like to. You should be able to do online learning if you'd like to. I'm sure there's teachers that do one or the other. There should be choice. You know, it shouldn't be one size fits all. You know, just like anything else in this world, you should have choice. It shouldn't come down to, you know, a vote of, you know, like I said, the 13 members here, and that's it. You know, I think it's bigger than that. And I've been listening to the people calling in here, and I hear a lot of that. And I have been watching each and every one of you. I don't know if you can see me, but I've been watching each and every one of you for the last hour and a half or so. And I can see the people who are really paying attention and the people who are not. And I do get that it's late, and I understand that you're tired. I put in a 14-hour workday today myself, and then come down to watch this because it's important. Important things need to be addressed. I do thank you all for your time. I know it's a huge decision. And I hope that you listen to the majority and not an agenda. I hope you really do listen to these people say that their lives will be affected one way or the other, and that one way or the other, if they had choice in the matter, if the people have the choice as to which road they want to go down, that should be the way we go. It shouldn't be one size fits all. I thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to get on here and address you.
Thanks, Brandon. Jay Smith. Hi, Jay Smith.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for staying online this whole entire time and listening to everyone's comments. It shows you care. This is something the entire community is obviously very passionate about. It's our children. I made a couple quick notes. I'm going to keep it real quick. We love our teachers. You know, I'm hearing the teachers that were concerned. I think what people are being critical over, and it may not come across that way, we were critical over how virtual didn't work for our families. Not that virtual was bad, but all of the ways that it didn't work for us, it added frustrations. You can hear that coming through the calls. You can hear that coming through the parents. And it could be coming across incorrectly as an attack on the teachers, and that's not the case. My daughter's in elementary school, and I tell you, when her teacher towards the end of the school year showed up at the end of the driveway for a distant hello, just from the end of the driveway saying, "Hello, friend," my daughter lit up and I was in tears. It shows how much our teachers truly care about the kids in the community. So it was a learning curve for all of us, and we still haven't found the ideal solution yet. That said, this has been 5 months, not 5 weeks, 5 months. We're talking about doing more virtual for the next 3 to 4 months. This virus isn't going away. They're already telling us that it's mutating, that we've had the flu vaccines out there for how many years? It mutates every single year. This isn't going away. We needed to flatten the curve. We're not eliminating the curve, so we need to pull our heads out of the sand as a community, as a society, and know that this virus isn't going anywhere, even if we get a vaccine. So we need to figure out how to make solutions that are going to work for us, not just short-term, long-term. We need to find solutions that are going to work. That said, let's keep getting creative. Appreciate the work everyone that is putting in the short term. And I also wanted to say I appreciate that you're opening the virtual academy enrollment back up. I chose in-person learning. Now I need to do a deep dive crash course learning on what the remote learning versus the virtual academy is all about. I appreciate having that option now. I can say with the virtual learning, having an elementary student, one of the things that will not work for me being a working parent, and my husband as well, is having these structured, it starts at 8:15, it goes until 3:45. I'm just coming up with arbitrary times, but every 20 minutes something is going to be changing and she needs to be in front of a computer because she's going to get frustrated. She's going to need help. So if there's an option where we can start live, and then depending upon what our workday throws at us, we can potentially put that on pause. And there is a system or a way for the school to see where she's hit pause or needed a break and picked back up, so we can go back and maybe watch a pre-recorded or after the fact joining in non-live. Kids, especially the small kids, they just don't have the bandwidth to be able to sit down and for 4 to 6 hours straight and just be able to absorb a lesson. So if there is a way for us to get creative while we're going through this to allow the kids to get pause, so that when the parents can have that opportunity to jump in and show them and help them and give them the assistance they need so they're not falling behind or missing out, we'd really appreciate having that option. So again, appreciate that everyone's trying to come together and find a solution that's going to work for the majority of us. There is no one size fits all, and I thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Okay. Becky Lesh, or sorry, Moto E5 Play. Are you with us, Moto E5 Play? All right, one more time. The floor is yours. Moto E5. Okay. Okay. How about Olivia V? Hi, Olivia. Olivia, have you hung in with us? There you are.
Being heard.
Hi, Olivia.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Cool. I've been here since 6:30
Thank
from
you
the
so
very
much
beginning.
thank you for sticking.
I am going to be a junior at Mott High School. I am in the STEM program, and I've been a part of the Waterford School District since before kindergarten. And at the end of last year, it did not work for me, and it didn't work for many people I do know. We were given the choice, and we were saying that the risk was worth it to us. And I think that needs to be considered. We knew the risks for both, but we said that was worth it because we need to be there. I have diagnosed anxiety and depression. I've had it since I was 3 years old. I have a single dad who owns his own business, who he is gone a lot. I have to be in a class to be able to learn. I have a 504, and I also get free meals because my dad has 3 kids. We get free meals, but I also am allergic to gluten, so I get free gluten-free meals. And at the end of last school year, I wasn't able to get my gluten-free meals once the school shut down, and that put a really big struggle on my dad. And I will be driving myself to school. We put in that when we get to school, I will not be taking the bus. I also believe that if people are doing that, they shouldn't have to pay for parking passes at the school, because I know that some people, they weren't able to drive last year because of the parking pass situation. And if it's such a big thing, I know I will wear a mask. I'm a nanny for a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I was just with them a couple nights ago, and they saw a person walking by them, and they said, no, you're too close. It's a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old that were saying, oh no, you gotta stay away, you're too close. So kids understand it, even little kids. And us as teenagers, we're able to make that choice for ourselves. And I think that's a big thing. And I'm a STEM student. I have been since 9th grade. We have these things called surfaces in STEM that we use for a lot of our learning. We could use those instead of like books and notebooks. That would take away having to go to lockers and stuff, because we have everything on this one thing. All our books, we could take notes on different classes, have them just all in there. That would take away having locker visits and stuff like that. That's it.
Thank you so much for that perspective, Olivia. Thank you.
Dr. Ristich?
Yes.
I know it's not a time for question and answer. I just don't know if I would be able to get back to Olivia, and I just wanted to let her know that food service will provide meals for you that are gluten-free. They did do that. We just have to make sure that we get you in contact with the right people. So I know it's not question and answer, but I didn't know how to reach her to tell her that. So thanks for letting me interrupt.
Thanks, Joan. Okay, SummerSlam. Hi, SummerSlam.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. I have also been on here since the beginning.
Thank you
very much for your time. Thank you very much for everyone, really all the teachers. And I know they're not on here. Sue Case, I have 3 kids at Grayson, and I think everybody's done a fantastic job. I'm sorry if you can hear the kids in the background. A couple of them are crying now. I'm really looking forward to actually the virtual myself. It kind of seems that it may be going that way. I'm not real sure about the remote learning. I never saw that posed until today. I heard about it, just being on here. It's a couple concerns I have. For one, is it going to be real teachers and not a company? Because I've heard mixed things that it's going to be a different company hired in. Maybe that's going to be a different company for virtual versus remote learning. A couple issues, and honestly, I was one of the ones, and thank you for using the name there, because I was part of the SummerSlam, and I think the kids did great on that. And truthfully, in speaking with some of the teachers in the district, and I've been around for a minute, I've been in the area for quite a while and know quite a few people, and talking with them, they even admit, the kids learn about an hour maybe an hour and a half per day. And it's really not a lot. And that's really for every district, not just Waterford. And I think a lot of parents are upset the way things are going, but I mean, it is what it is. And it's not your choice necessarily. But I think it's just that, the parents need to get on board and stop bashing or being, upset with you guys. It's just the way it is. And I'm actually looking forward to not getting lice notes. I really am. And, I'm afraid if my kid goes to school and has a temperature, they're going to be off for 5 days. I'm not looking forward to that. I think the parents, got to get on board with it. They really do. The Google Classrooms, I think, was okay. I mean, you were thrown into it. Everybody was thrown into it. You really didn't have much choice. Yeah, some were better than others, but at the end of the day, kids were still learning. They were still able to see their peers, maybe from a different school. The SummerSlam was really neat. And I think that was better than the original. And I know not everyone on here even knows what SummerSlam is, but I think it went pretty well. Sure, there's hiccups and everything. Yeah, I'm not a real big fan of Dreambox, Prodigy, on the elementary level. It's more game-based, but I do like the Khan Academy. I do like, the Lexia. And I think if we all get on the same agenda, man, and I love the agenda. Looking at virtual versus school, it seemed to me that there was more learning. There was actually a half hour dedicated to a lunch. And I've been to the school many a times and have lunch with my children. They're in and out of that cafeteria before they did the rebuild in 10 minutes. Whistles blowing, these kids are out throwing their lunches out. They don't even have time to eat. But yet you got a half hour dedicated to that now. You got a half hour dedicated to recess or playtime after. So there's certain aspects that are just, to me, fantastic. And actually there is a social studies pairing. There is a math. There's so many things that are great. But if I could maybe just point out a couple things where it was kind of, and a lot of it's been redundant tonight. And I know you guys have been through a lot listening to the same over and over. But if somehow, some way we could maybe get rid of, the virtual part of podcasts where a kid just sits there and listens, maybe actually do more hands-on, or if a child were to actually sit there, not to be able to get to a teacher at any time they want, but maybe not even just send an email out and hope to get a response the next day, but if they were able to go on and have more than just a half hour in the morning, that'd be fantastic. Because that's usually what it is. You got a half hour in the morning, all this work's thrown at you, and then you, the parent, have to go through it and navigate and make sure everything's done. And the printouts, I mean, my kids knocked those out in a day and a half. Those are printouts that anybody could do online. I would just love for there to be, I guess, some more direction on that. But I love the fact that it's bracketed down. I'm not understanding why parents aren't seeing how it was, because that was definitely a PDF file that was sent out. It showed the agenda. Again, I'd rather it to be teachers as opposed to a hired company. Not to reiterate again, podcasts, well, it's nice to have a kid just actually listen to see if they can focus and learn from just listening. But I don't think that was really great. But I think everybody's done a great job. Everything was thrown at you at once. Maybe less YouTube videos and more hands-on, more teachers, more directive, and, keep moving forward. I think you guys have all done a great job. I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you, all of you, very much so, for doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much, SummerSlam.
Got it.
Okay, Shelly. Hi, Shelly.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing all right. And you?
I'm good. So I'm actually a student at Waterford Kettering. Well, at Kettering. I'm going into my senior year this year, and I chose to do the virtual academy. First, I want to just explain some things about myself, and then I'll just say a couple things about how this is all making me feel. But first of all, I didn't really struggle as bad as some parents are saying their children did, in the spring with Google Classroom and stuff. I am older though than some of the parents were saying their kids were, how they're in in younger grades. So I mean that does make a difference. But also I'm not anyone else's child. I don't have the same learning abilities they do. I don't have the same attention span they do or the same lifestyle. that they do. We're all different. We can't base things on just one student, two students, or even 50. We all learn differently, and the springtime was different for all of us. So, I mean, that makes a big difference. We're all different people. We're all different kids. We're all different students. So you just can't base it on one person. Another thing is, personally, I'm terrified to go back to school, to go back to in person. I'm an awful hypochondriac, and I think that basically I'm sick 24/7. I just tested positive for mono 3.5 weeks ago, and I still have no idea where I got it from or who I got it from. I've not been around anyone but my family and my boyfriend since March 12th when we got out of school. When I go anywhere, such as the store, I wear a mask, I use hand sanitizer, I wash my hands, and I social distance. I was even wearing gloves a couple months ago, but then people started, giving me dirty looks and stuff, and I was like, maybe I am crazy, and so I stopped doing that. I also have really bad anxiety, and going to school can be hard as it is sometimes. I get panic attacks, and, it's hard to breathe and stuff, and so, it's difficult sometimes. Being quarantined has made it hard to go out in public now, and I can't imagine myself being at school with these changes right now and being around a bunch of people, specifically people who I know that are not going to wear a mask. But again, this is just me, no one else, and I understand that. And I'm 17 and I can understand that this is just me, so I think that other people should be able to understand that as well. Again, firsthand, I know that there will be students who will not wear a mask. They'll take it off as a joke or because they don't want to wear one. I will not sit in a classroom where I'm constantly being distracted by students taking off their masks. And my learning is constantly being interrupted by teachers having to tell them to keep their masks on. I won't do it. It's not fair to me, and it's not fair to the other people around me who are there to learn and to get an education. That's just not fair. I struggled really hard choosing whether or not I wanted to do virtual or in person. I'm involved in Kettering's leadership class, and that's the best part of my day. That's where all my friends are, and not being able to finish off our events last year with the seniors really sucked. Knowing we won't be able to have any of our events this upcoming semester sucks as well, but if that is what needs to happen, then it will. Same with NHS and Link Crew and Student Council. I want to participate in all these things again, especially because it's my senior year, but I would rather save the lives of teachers, students, family, and friends. So, that's just how I feel personally. That's just all personal things, basically. But also, I feel like I haven't really heard anyone say this. I know a couple parents have, but this decision genuinely needs to be based on if it's safe for us to go back and if it's safe for people to not get sick and to not become ill and pass away. That is what needs to be focused on, in my opinion, and I'm a student saying that, and I think that that's what parents need to focus on as well. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Samantha H. Hi, Samantha. Samantha? Okay, Moto E5 play. I see you're here. You're back. Okay, Moto E5, you've got the floor. Okay. Seth Fox. Hi, Seth.
Hi.
Hi, Seth.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Seth Fox and I am a student. I originally wasn't going to say anything, but after listening to the past meeting and then listening to 5 hours of this meeting, I am convinced that there is, in fact, a best decision that this board can make. And I think that that is the decision that this board should make, is to allow parents to make the choice between letting their child go back to school or being online. Every body of government must make a decision that is best for their constituents. And oftentimes that means choosing between liberty and authority. In Waterford, we must choose liberty. Respectfully, Superintendent Lindbergh said that he wants to be a leader. So we in Waterford must show leadership. The plan laid forth did not show leadership at all. It talked about what other communities were doing. And even more than half of the time was spent on talking about spending money on vacations for teachers instead of investing in students in the community. You know, the point about 60%, 40% has been brought up many times tonight. If parents continue to pursue this decision, it will shrink classroom sizes and provide opportunities for social distancing. Next, since we want to compare, our situation in Waterford to the situation in other communities, let's talk about the economic inequality that affects Waterford here at home. Other families, like families in Bloomfield Hills and West Bloomfield, they are making a lot more money than families in Waterford. There are parents in Waterford that must go out to put food on their tables. Other people aren't so worried about money because they have so much of it. We in Waterford, there are so many people that need to work for that, and they can't have the kids at home. They can't leave them alone. If they don't have childcare or whatever, they just need to be able to go out and work. Further, as brought up by many people earlier, we need to talk about the mental health. Right now, the suicide rates are much higher. And, a friend of mine actually took his own life when school was in session and crisis resources were available. So while crisis resources are not available right now, or you have to access them remotely, it's just not a good opportunity. Kids have to have the opportunity to go to school and make that choice. I just wanted to add that I think that, obviously there are people that are concerned about, there are members that are concerned about the children, but I think a lingering thought in many people's minds is that they want to protect their own reputation. However, I think that many of the parents here value and demand this choice between being online and being in person. And these upset parents will remember their frustration when they vote in November of 2022, 2024, 2026, and every election on. And if you perpetuate this frustration, they will vote you out. We are community, and we must all make sacrifices. And online school doesn't work for many families. And a mandate might destroy not only our great community, but the future of this country. We are the first generation that has had to run active shooter drills. We are the first generation that has had to deal with cyberbullying. But that's the world that we're living in right now, and it's constantly evolving, and we must learn to deal with this virus because it is not going away anytime soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sharon. Hi, Sharon.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
How do I follow that? Okay, I wanted to say thank you to the board members, to the administrators, to the teachers. All are very good. We are very, very lucky to have some very good teachers in this district. I am for, and we voted for going to face-to-face education this year. I am the mother of a senior, and I wanted to voice my opinion for the seniors. I'm hoping that if the classes are virtual and through Google Classroom, that something is done for the senior class. They have worked very hard to get where they are, and I would like to know a little bit more about what the school system is planning for the music program. I have a senior who is a member of the marching band, as are Emily and Zoe and many of their friends. And they were all very much looking forward to the section leader status of all of their music sections. Mine is a drummer. And they are unfortunately not being able to participate in their yearly marching band camps. This week and next week would have been their marching band camps, and those have been canceled. And we were told that there may be 4 days that they might get to do them at the end of the month, the week before school starts, but we've not been given any information on that. So I would like very much to know what's going to happen with the marching band program for this year, as well as the rest of the music program. These kids are dedicated musicians. They have been for many years. My son, this is his 5th year in marching band. He started in the 8th grade on the drum line. And I'm very curious to know what's going to be happening with the music program this year, because, you know, like so many of them, they planned to go into college and further that goal for themselves and participate in college marching bands. So this could be having an adverse effect on them if not being able to participate in any music programs this year, from a school standpoint for college, as well as a very personal standpoint. They all are very dedicated to music, and this is very important to them. So I would like to know what's going to be happening with the music program for all of them. Thank you. And again, I don't envy you your decisions, but thank you for doing everything that you do for the kids. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sharon. Okay, Christina. Hi, Christina.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I appreciate you guys all. You're hitting about the 5.5 hour mark after probably working today like me. I just had a couple of concerns. So of course I am a mom, and my daughter was actually starting school this year as a kindergartner. So my reason for getting on was to kind of learn both sides of the story here. Especially I have 2 children that are in daycare. So my children have been in daycare 5 days a week the entire time this has gone on. No cases of COVID. This is someone with an 18-month-old and a 5-year-old who touch each other, spit on each other, snot all over each other, and haven't come home with anything. No cases at the daycare, knock on wood. But I think following some of those safety protocols, I guess my concern comes in when we're looking at the programs given to us. They don't follow CDC guidelines. They don't follow health department guidelines. We say that we're going to quarantine individuals for 14 days. That's not the expectation anymore. I work very closely with both, so been on the front line the entire time. So I think that the plans that you lay out need to address those factors. If you're going to shut a school down for a certain amount of time, I think the parents, as parents of children in the school district, need to understand why they wouldn't follow those type of guidelines. I understand the concerns of teachers. I have teachers that are in my family. We've had this conversation, but I think we need to understand, one, why the decision is being made the way it is. The board is elected by the community, which is something that we're here to voice our opinion. And I know that you guys have all had very long days. I will say that there was an individual that had their phone on, it was off mute, and he decided to have a conversation through talk and text and told us that we were being selfish through a text message to someone he was talking to. So I would hope that you guys would address that type of issue. As we've been respectful and we sit here for 5.5 hours, and guess what? I'm not selfish. It's trying to understand, but for a board member to then do that, that's a concern for me. Especially when, you know, I was having a hard decision keeping my children in the Waterford School District. That makes me question whether we have the right board of individuals here for my daughter. And to make those choices when you're openly going to sit here and say these parents are selfish. The utmost safety of my children is my biggest concern. So I think that you should rewind back and watch your own recording of this individual say that and do his text message to somebody else. but it takes a lot for a parent. I just worked a 12-hour day, also taking care of my children, and then getting on to listen to this, but not to have the same respect that you've asked of us. But I would say that the last concern I have is really laying out what the difference between the virtual learning and the remote learning, if we've decided that we were going to send our children to school. We really need to look outside of the box, as well as how hard this is on some of the parents that are on here voicing their opinion and who have sat here, that maybe that individual should be addressed.
Thank you so much, Christina. Okay, Christina K. Hey, Christina.
Hi again. Just one last thing that I was thinking of that I kind of missed to bring up when I was talking a few minutes ago. So I'll make it really quick. I could swear I saw an email for those people that signed on with virtual, in school learning, that they had to fill out an app every day for each student before they went to school. Is that correct? No?
I have the answer to that.
Okay, I swear I saw an email and I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it. So if I do find it, I'll let somebody know. But the other thing I wanted to just quickly talk about is with children and them having to wear masks. You know, there are, many children that will have a very difficult time having masks, let alone having several that they might be able to wash each day. I suspect most of them will take them off and they'll stick them in their bag, and then they'll take them back out and wear them the next day. So, why or would the Waterford School District consider, like many of our employers are doing these days, handing out single-use masks that get thrown away at the end of the day for each student? I'm guessing there's some people that aren't going to have a mask when they get to school, and they're going to go, oh, it was in the washing machine, I forgot to take it out, or yeah, here it is in my bag. It stays in my bag. It never gets washed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at our last meeting, that is a protocol that is in place. Single-use masks for people who might need them. So.
Okay. Well, I didn't get to say thank you as well earlier. I do appreciate you taking the time to let the parents kind of tell you how we're feeling, how we're handling the situation as well. And I look forward to some of the answers in the future.
Well, thank you so much, Christina, for sticking with us.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us. Okay. All right. So, colleagues, we need to make a motion and discuss the motion on the return to fall plan. Or we can just open this thing back up for discussion about the return to fall plan. Members,
I'll do it. Yeah. I'll do it. I would like to make a motion that we begin the school year remotely for the first 10 weeks on the condition that at the 5-week point, between now and the 5-week point, we discuss parameters as to how we can open after 5 weeks, if we can open after 5 weeks, and if it's possible.
I support.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks for saying all that.
Motion has been moved and supported. Are there comments or questions?
I'm sorry, go ahead. Who wants to go?
So let's go with Mr. Piggott first.
Thank you, Mike. Just wondering, Mike, just before we do get to the vote, I know quite a few people did say, can you kind of just give a quick a day in the life of virtual learning? What's it going to look like? And I don't know if that's a Scott or Lisa, and I know a lot of people are wanting to get this taken care of, but can you quickly kind of just give us, and those who ask, a quick day, what's it going to look like?
Lisa, would you be able to speak to this?
Sure, and I do encourage people to go to our FAQ and the information we put out on the website because it is illustrated for them there as well. The Virtual Learning Academy or the Virtual Academy will be using the Edgenuity platform, and teachers will also be meeting with students. So students will meet with a teacher at minimum every day. So one day they may meet with their social studies teacher, one day it may be ELA, one day it may be math, one day it may be science, and then the other day it may be one of those people who's just their person who checks up on them and does their academic center to make sure things are going well. The majority of instruction, though, will be done through Edgenuity, and teachers will be there to support, reteach, and progress monitor them. That's a more flexible program in that students can do it at different times, not the tuning in with their teacher, that will be at given times, but the actual work on Edgenuity. And they can log right on and see how they're doing. Students themselves can see that, and then teachers have that access as well. If it is a remote learning, then that will be with their own assigned teachers through Google Classroom. We are moving to a block schedule at the secondary, and so they won't be meeting with 7 teachers every day, nor will teachers be using that block to teach the whole time or lecture the whole time. All Google Meets or classrooms will be recorded so that they can watch later if they want to. Students will be expected to participate in activities and do things on their own time as well, so that they're not going to be sitting in front of a screen, the entire day. And at the elementary, they'll be working with their regular classroom teacher. They'll be doing some large group work. They'll be doing some small group work. Guided reading groups will continue as normal. And teachers will set out the calendar for this. And they will also have their encore classes as normal, and they will be made right or scheduled right into their day for them.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you, Lisa. Is that good? Member Sutherland, I know you had a question, then Member Torres.
I really just wanted to understand the motion. I'm not clear on what is the significance at the 5-week point versus the 10-week point as it was presented. Could someone restate that for me?
Five weeks, a hard line on 5 weeks, because we wanted to give time in case we needed to extend it out further. So we were going to go for 10 weeks. However, we were going to have a formal review at the 5-week point. Did I not understand that correctly?
I didn't know that that's what we had decided.
No, it was just thrown out there, so that's what my motion is.
Right.
So that kind of gets to my question. So then are we saying that if we adopt this, that at 5 weeks, we would reassess where we're at? And that leads to the question that parents asked about, like, what's the guiding post? What are we looking at? And I would presume, and I don't know if there's a specific guideline, but are we looking for more of a downtrend in COVID cases as to Oakland County as a guiding post to determine whether we could now re-engage school or go back? So that, I think that would need to be defined to an extent as it relates to, the 5 versus 10 week. Because what I would like is that if we say 5 weeks, when we get to 5 weeks, we're ready to go if everything is good. If that's not the case, if we're seeing a spike in cases, and we're as Mr. Piggott had stated earlier, we're going to be watching this pretty closely. So then we would know that this is looking more like a 10-week thing. But there didn't seem that we had any guiding posts. That might be something we'll want to look more into to find out. And with I appreciate Ms. McPhee's synopsis of the virtual versus the remote learning. But perhaps if that is something that we do, we could provide some kind of like town hall type thing like we did before, where we did like a Facebook Live thing to further explain to parents, because I think there's trying to figure out what the choice would be. I know Avondale is doing that. So something that just going to be more thoroughly as parents get in, because if they get locked in, if they go into virtual versus remote, if they do virtual, are they locked in, Scott, still for the card marking?
If they're locked in, yeah. So Lisa can talk a little bit about that. If you're signed up for the virtual academy, you're going to be, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to be in it for the semester. You need to be for the secondary. Card marking will be some flexibility for elementary.
Yes.
But I would speak to that. So I would need to do it with a team. I don't know if I want to make that decision tonight, but I'm more than willing to do that town hall, do something like that again, like we did. So.
Are we tied to the 10-week marking period? I mean, I know we picked 10 weeks because it's a marking period, but the virtual academy, if you choose virtual academy at the secondary levels, you're tied for a full semester. So we could do, I'm going to back up a little. Our parents were spot on. We have to have a criteria. We don't have, you talked about goalposts but we don't, for me, I've been able to process this, that the criteria is such that we have never, ever tested this. And I don't want us to be the guinea pigs. We have never had children, and I mean children K through 12, in close proximity, social distancing to the extent that we can, since the pandemic began. So we cut things off right on March 13th. So nobody really knows how this is going to go. We just don't know. It's the first time we've been through it. And so for me, I want to monitor what's happening across the nation. I want to across the state, but most especially across Oakland County. What does this look like when children, and there are some districts that are doing it, but what does this look like? What are they seeing? It isn't a criteria for me about how many cases are there, because we're in a pretty good place right now. But what we don't know is what's going to happen when we have a lot of students in one area. We just, it's just starting to happen. We're just starting to open up across the country. So the criteria for me, and we need to talk about that, but it's because things keep changing every single day, but it's determining a level of safety based on children going back to learning live in person. What does that look like?
And I would echo that. I mean, I appreciate so much Patrick when he talked about these tripwires, as he put it, in this metaphor, goalpost, whatever it might be. The part of the issue here is we as a body are an education body. We're not a public health body. And so to have those tripwires, those criteria, you're asking if as a member of this board, I'm an educator, I'm a professor of writing. I have no way to develop criteria related to that stems from virology, transmissibility of this virus. It'd be the same as asking a chef to offer their input on the spread footings of a skyscraper. I mean, I have no capacity to develop those criteria. But we can seek guidance, we can seek counsel. And that is what we'll have to do over the next 5 weeks. Because at the end of the day, we're an education body. We can make decisions about how to educate our students in a particular context. But as it relates to COVID-19, I'm not an expert. I think one parent said it so well, is let's leave those decisions around COVID to the experts. And so I think to that point, to John Paul's point, to Joan's point, over the next 5 weeks, that's our goal. We need to have that guidance and seek that counsel. Member Patricia?
Yeah, my thing is we just need to get something started. We need to make a decision so we can start planning. Because again, we were planning on going back to school. We're not headed in that direction. I don't think that the state will allow us to. So I think everyone's going to be going this way. This will just give us a few more weeks to get everyone prepared. But again, we have to do this so we can start planning. That's my whole thing is we have to move forward so we can start doing things.
So we are, Member Piggott.
No, and I just want to chime in, and I think, Joan, you hit it right on the head. When some of the people toward the end of tonight were talking about what is your benchmark, what is the key to where you guys will determine to go back. For me, I don't specifically know where I would then turn around and vote yes to go back, but my biggest thing is we watch. And that's why when we brought up, when Scott talked about maybe at 5 weeks, and I brought up and I said, we should be looking at this literally every day. You know, I know there are some districts, I've today, a few people at work, Davison and Heartland, I know are going back in person, at least as of this afternoon. We need to watch and see what happens in other districts and see how things go. And if in maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks, 2 weeks, things are going really good and there's little to no cases, you know, maybe that's going to say to us, okay, we can go back. Let's make this work. It'll make our staff feel safer if they're seeing all these other districts that have gone back. There's not cases. You know, I think we just kind of have to wait and see, monitor also how it's going for us remotely. We have to make sure that our remote learning is top notch. It has to be. And we've all said last spring maybe wasn't the best, but again, to criticize anybody for last spring, I think is so wrong because it was all new to everybody. It got thrown at us last minute. None of us had ever experienced anything like this in our lifetimes. And so it's really hard to criticize how it all went. We've had the time to prepare. And so we monitor what we're doing in Waterford. We monitor and see what else is going around in other districts who maybe have gone back. And I think that's kind of where our benchmarks are. And we see what's happening. And because God knows, every single one of us and everybody I've talked to, teachers, staff, families, everybody wants to get the kids back in the classroom. Everybody wants to do it, but they want to do it when it's safe. You know, they want to do it when it's safe for, most importantly, for our kids, but for our staff and for families of our kids and our staff. And so, you know, for me, I would look at what's happening in other districts that go back. How is it working in those districts? How is our online going here in Waterford? And then we look at that, and that's where we go.
Anybody online going, is anybody in Oakland County going online that we know of, or going in person that we know of?
Oxford is.
Oxford, yeah.
But they're a smaller school district though, right?
Right. Oxford's going back from what I've heard in, we're talking to one of their board members. West Bloomfield had a hybrid version, and then they switched to a different hybrid version, as I was explaining earlier. And I think Bloomfield is reassessing their situation, but but Oxford is, that I'm aware of, and I believe outside of Oakland County, Howell is. I had another question though, Scott. I heard a couple of people say that they were accepted into daycare today. So what does daycare, is that an all-day thing, and does that support remote learning for kids? And then and how does that look different from a learning pod if at that point, when we get to that point?
Yeah, I don't know if Amy has some specific information. I don't think we've defined that. One of the things we'll be challenges by is any daycare that'll be done will have limits on how many that they can do. So we've discussed what that might look like, John Paul, in terms of during the day, but I don't think that's really been defined just yet. Amy?
John Paul, I think that let me get my microphone here. I think that what the individual was talking about was that they were accepted into before or after school. The program that was put out there prior to this meeting. So obviously, as things had to continue on through this process, that is what they're talking about. They're talking about before and after school. They are not talking about an all-day program.
So then an all-day program would consist of a learning pod type thing to meet those specific needs of the parents that would need that then that you had talked about in your presentation.
Yeah, really the way, and again, we just started talking about learning labs. I don't see that we have an all-day opportunity for that. I see that we may have some drop-ins, some small groups getting together. But to be honest, we haven't fully vetted that out, so I don't know where that could go or where we can build it. That's why I'd like some time to really look at what that might be, to be honest.
Member Sullivan?
Thank you, Dr. Ristich. I first of all, just really, I don't know if we still have parents on the call, but I want to extend, I think, a heart full of gratitude to our community for the level of respect and understanding and the support that has been given to this board, to the administration, to our teachers during a very difficult time. I think we're all frustrated, we're all disappointed, we're all angry, but we're angry at a silent, virus, at a silent enemy. We're not angry at each other, I hope. And I know we've received a myriad of letters. I have not replied to all of them. I apologize to those that I didn't get to. We've talked on the phone, we've emailed one another, we've texted, we've had numerous conversations. We've heard the emotion in our parents and our families' voices, in our students' voices that were so articulate in expressing their frustration and their own thoughts. We've heard the concern in the comments. And it is really with just immense admiration and respect that we say, honestly, we agree with you. Regardless of where you landed on this, we agree with you. We really do. Your comments, your concerns, they're all warranted. Your positions, your arguments are well thought out and they're logical. And you are all correct, quite honestly, regardless of where you landed on virtual only or coming, everybody's correct. Your input in advocating for your children is to be respected and admired, and it speaks volumes, and I thank you for that. I appreciate that we aren't taking out our frustration on one another. I can tell you every board member here has lost sleep. We've read everything the CDC has put out on children and returning to school. We've looked to the county, to the health departments, to the state for data and for advice. We've read articles from JAMA and the American Academy of Pediatrics. We've talked to our legislatures, we've talked to pediatricians, we've talked to other school boards, and we've talked to each other. And as Dr. Ristich just mentioned, we're not epidemiologists. We are community members just like all of you. And to task us with trying to create the medical criteria is a gross injustice to all of the families that we represent. So I have literally changed my mind 3 times in this meeting. So if you don't think we come to these discussions with an open mind and hearing this community, I can assure you that we do. And I just think where I have landed on all of this, if I'm going to be the first one to say it, is that I support the virtual learning. I want us to be back in school like nobody's business. And I know our teachers want to be back in school. But if I have to err on the side of anything, it's going to be on the side of human life. And I understand the ramifications and I feel them and I appreciate the immense hardship that this creates for our families. I do. It breaks my heart. It's heart-wrenching. And I think one of our sweet students said it best, this just sucks. But we're doing the best that we can. And I think the best that we can do is to monitor this daily, to dip our toe in, to acclimate to this new world that we're living in carefully and safely, and to continue to monitor and adjust as we go. So that's, I guess, where I'm at.
Scott, with regard to the special needs students, now there's more though that you're going to have to do with Nadine, correct? In understanding what that's going to look like.
Yes. Yeah, and we talked earlier today, and we were working through some of those things. So I know Nadine's going to work with some of her team, and that's why really to come back on August 20th will be good, because we'll be able to share some of those specifics. Definitely.
So between that and between the learning, the phrase was community, or that learning pods. Yeah. So that would be something that could be in place for those families that are in that predicament where the parent has to work. Because one of the biggest things that I worry is that I hear, a few parents, and, they're advocating and they're doing the best for their kids, but just taking a year off, and that scares me, because, we're charged with two things, and this is what creates the predicament that we're in. Is one is keeping kids safe, and the other is educating them. So now what do you do when those two collide? And then and that's where we're at right now, is that educating kids might not keep them safe. So, but I don't want the quality of education, as much as, how important it is. I see it is so important that the quality of education is still there, and that pertains to all of our students, special needs, and our kids with family circumstances. So, one of the things that I'm really adamant about now, we're putting trust in you in this, that we want more detail, as we move closer to this on if those special needs, how that's going to be done, and if some of those have to be some in person, how that would look, and then essentially too with the learning communities for those students that where the parents just don't have another option. So those are two of the biggest things, and then the progressive move into, because I think it really, if we're putting it at a 5-week and that's the goal, okay, what are we looking at for the criteria? Are we going to the Oakland County Health Department? Are we going to the CDC? Are we looking at trends in like districts? I mean, if you compare us to an Oxford, that's a more rural, versus a Waterford, which is, different. So those are some of the things too I want to see filled in, so that we know that, we're headed in the right direction, and we're continuously looking at a plan with the goal to get our kids back in school, but to make sure that they're safe, and in the interim getting a good quality education while that's happening, and meeting the needs of our special needs community and our parents with special circumstances.
Right. Yeah, we're going to do our best. Again, the learning labs is something that we came up with. We want to make sure we have connections for students, and we got to see what we can do. I don't want to overpromise that we can meet all the needs for kids that if parents are working during the day. So I'm not saying we can bring all those kids in, but I'm saying how can we start to transition. What that's going to look like, I don't know. We got to kind of see where the staffing's at and what we can do.
I do think we need to, again, be careful that we don't, just to reiterate, I think what you're saying, Scott, because John Paul was, I think, a little different than what you might be thinking. I'm kind of hearing a disconnect there, and I just want to make sure that we don't leave our parents with the idea that there's going to be a learning group or a learning lab or a learning pod where they can bring their children in for the entire day, because that's really the same thing as the face-to-face instruction, and that we don't have available in our current structure. So I just want to make sure that we say those hard words so that in the interest of complete transparency, parents can plan.
Well, and I think what it is that they know that we're making the effort to, what's different from this plan, from the last plan to this one, is that there is that effort in place that we're trying
Absolutely.
to
No question. No question. It's just not all day. It's just not all day.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the key, is that we're putting in that effort. But I had a question about the extracurriculars. I know the sports thing is still out there, and that's to be determined. But like people talked about the music and any others, things like that. Are those things that the school can still sanction or be involved in or allow in person?
Yeah, so we've been working through that. I know Lisa's probably got a couple more recent updates, but we've been working through providing those opportunities. Lisa, do you have anything that you might be able to add?
We've been working with the music teachers and they are offering their music programs. I know band is social distancing and going to be getting going. Now we aren't going to guarantee at this point that they'll be able to perform at football games. We don't know that there will even be football contests at this point. Waiting on that from the MHSAA, but they are practicing. They're coming up with all sorts of ways. And they've been working as we have to determine if we're in person, what will that look like? If we're online, what will that look like? But music classes will run as normal virtually. And if we come back, then, and when we come back, they will be doing it with very specific guidelines in place to keep everyone safe.
Excellent. Colleagues, the motion on the table is to vote to start the school year at 10 weeks with the expectation of a 5-week reevaluation. That Superintendent Lindberg will be working with the Director of Support Services to plan for meeting the needs and plans of our students who receive ancillary services, as well as establishing, inquiring into what we're calling learning labs, places or sites where students can meet with their teachers for some sort of support with their virtual or remote learning. Any other comments or questions, or are we ready to take a vote?
President Richards, can I just make a clarification, please?
Yes, please, and thank you.
Thank you,
Yes.
because I want everybody to get this right.
Yep.
Ancillary services are part of an individual educational plan. So as I understand the direction of the board, they're asking for a plan to be developed for our students that have individual educational plans. Many of those, all of those students do include ancillary services. So we will be taking a look at all of our students based on a continuum of need, and then be developing a plan based upon those needs. Okay, so that is how this will work. I will be working with our staffing, our HR department, Superintendent Lindberg, Assistant Superintendent Eldridge, and various other stakeholders in the community, of course, including our parents, as we get into that. So this isn't just about ancillary services. We'll take a look at the continuum of need for our students as a whole. Does that help? Does that help in terms of board members, please? So I want to make sure I get this right for everybody.
I'm not even sure that should be part of the motion. I think that's something that we've discussed. I just don't know that we want to have that be part of the motion.
I just wanted to be careful about just only the ancillary services, because that's very, very different than
Separate thing, exactly.
Right. And I think just a clarification, because we have to make a decision before they can even start planning into these things. Because right now we're planning face to face, and until we change that, they don't have a plan. We have to do this so they can start working on the next level. Nadine, I'm sure you've been there during since the beginning of this and been part of all this, because your population is much diverse than the regular district, but it's all children, but we're gonna do what's best for all. Some need more, we'll do what we can. But again, we have to finalize this so we can move forward so they can get started with that program and figure out what we can and can't do, and start working on that sometime tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine, for that clarification. And thank you, Joan. Yes, I think you're right. Yes, I was just describing things we had talked about, so you're absolutely right. So again, the motion is to start the 2020 fall school year virtually with 10 weeks with a 5-week reevaluation mark.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Secretary Petrucia, will you please take a roll call vote?
Bill, I am a yes. Mr. Piggott?
Yes.
Mr. Richdick?
Yes.
Mrs. Sutherland?
Yes.
Mr. Torres?
Yes.
Mrs. Jocelyn?
You're on mute, Julie.
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for all of the participation we've had around this. Let's move on now to our new business, Secretary Petrucia.
Recommendation 11-20-21 relative to reinstatement of student A. And I so move.
Support.
The motion has been moved and supported. Are there any comments or questions?
I think the recommendation was to reinstate with provisions.
Okay, I would actually have to read that section.
All with conditions, yeah.
I just want to make sure that we have it correct. So after reviewing the facts and information in the matter and giving careful consideration to the applicable state law, the committee recommends that the Board of Education reinstate student A with conditions.
Thank you. I turned that paper over. I've been writing notes all over these things, so I didn't know what was where, so.
It's been a long night, Mr. Petrucia. I totally get it. I just want to make sure that we had that on the record.
Okay.
And this was Joan and Rob, or was this?
I think this was Joan and John Paul.
Joan and John Paul, thank you so much for your work on this.
Okay. Roll call. Member Piggott.
Yes.
Member Ristic.
Yes.
Member Sutherland.
Yes.
Member Torres.
Yes.
Member Jocelyn.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you.
Motion carries 6-0. Secretary Petrucia.
Superintendent's recommendation 12-20-21, reinstatement of student B. In keeping with Michigan law, a committee consisting of school board members, a school administrator, teacher, and parent of a pupil in the district reviewed the petition for the reinstatement of a student previously expelled by the Waterford School District. After reviewing all facts and information in the matter and giving careful consideration to the applicable state law, the committee recommended the Board of Education reinstate student B with conditions. I so move.
Support.
The motion has been moved and supported. Other comments or questions?
Member Ristic.
Yes.
Member Sutherland.
Yes.
Member Torres.
Yes.
Member Piggott.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Member Jocelyn.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you for your work on these committees, colleagues. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We've reached the end of tonight's agenda. It's been a long one. We value your input, your feedback. Thank you for sticking in there with us tonight. Colleagues, go to bed. Thank you so much. Tonight's meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.